I think before I even start this video, I should just let y'all know that this is, you know, it's going back quite a bit. I'll get more into it later, but yeah, this is going to be going into my experience with my ex a little bit, but I'll go more in depth with it, but if you um don't want to, watch this or even listen to this, I totally get it. That's completely fine with me. I think it's also something I say that's worth mentioning. This is not going to be like a malicious video by any means. This is a video I wanted to make mainly for myself, like the video I made way back in May. This was a video I wanted to make. And, without interruptions and just me talking into a camera and giving a full breakdown on everything, I think was okay. I know in my last video I basically said I wasn't going to be talking about this anymore, but I think it was appropriate to do one describing my breakup, and now that it pretty much has been a year since it happened, I wanted to basically, and you know, that's, if you've read the title, you kind of know where this is going. But I think it makes sense to just make one last video basically saying that, this is the end. So just thought I'd put that out there. I'll also give a closing statement as well. But yeah, if you don't want to go into this, if you're sick and tired of me, which I can't say that I blame a lot of people, I'm sick and tired of, going through it a whole lot. But for me, this is something I wanted to do way back, I would say in August, when I've had these thoughts to myself. So I totally get it if you guys don't want to listen to this, but it's something I need to do. Now, with that out of the way, now that you actually know the full context of what I'm getting into with this video, I'm just gonna say that it's about freaking time. I mean, it's been a full-blown year since the whole breakup. I mean, obviously it's been quite some time since, I talked about this. I wanted to make the video describing my breakup way back, I would say, basically a year from now. I wanted to make it last September when I started going into YouTube videos, but I decided to wait on it until eventually. Oh my gosh. I also apologize. I just got out of the shower, so my hair is going to be all over the place. I haven't put any product in it, so it's going to look a little bit like an emo boy's haircut for a little bit, but that's fine. But yeah, it was something I wanted to discuss a while ago. But obviously I got into like my breakup video way back in May, and I know it hasn't been that long since I've talked about it, but now that I've officially come to the end of this, I think it's about time that I finally just, I got into the nitty gritty of everything. I got into my breakup. Now let me get into overall, how I, finally reached to this point, because it was kind of a long, I don't want to say journey. This wasn't a, process that I particularly liked. I mean, it was a hard process in my life that, but I think it makes sense for me at least, because whenever I've talked to people about this, I mean, one of my friends in my anatomy classes is basically sick and tired of me, because he knew about it, and, it's all well and good, but I figured I'd make this video, basically explaining why this is, still having an impact on me, and, why ultimately, unfortunately, this is how I felt throughout the entire process. I figured it made sense if I just make a video basically, explaining all of that. Like I said in the intro, this is basically the ending to a video I made 4 months ago, just describing, the process of, the breakup process, I should say, of my ex that I had back during high school, that I was still kind of hurting over. Now, since that video was made way back in May, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, when I rewatched it just to, you know, basically, you know, hopefully not repeat a whole lot of what I said in my previous video, this was before my sister's graduation party, because she graduated from high school. I wanted to basically discuss that because it did ultimately frustrate me. I'm sure I mentioned it, but just to go over it again, it was something I wasn't looking forward to. Not because, I didn't want to go to my sister's graduation party. It's because I knew there was an 80% chance my ex was going to be there. And I debated about even coming. But, since, I thought about it long and hard, I talked with some people about it, it was that point in time where I was just like, let's just let this go. Be mutual friends. I'm here for my sister and not for my ex. We're both here for my sister, so let's be cordial. Let's be friendly. Let's just be the normal person that I normally am. A brainless, friendly little goofball. Basically how I treat people in general. And that's what I did. Now, I'm not going to go too ranty into this. This is probably the only thing that still frustrates me even to this day. But, again, that's the part of letting go. I'm officially letting go of all of this. But, of course, I go to my sister's graduation party and it's going really well. I have a few friends that I knew come over and it's really fun to hang out and have fun with them. No shock here. I mean, take a wild guess who was there. My ex. She was there. I saw her. It was clear as day. It wasn't a hallucination from any sort of, past drug hallucination. Not that I do drugs. But, it wasn't my subconscious basically, making her appear out of thin air. She was basically there. But, like I said, I was going to be cordial. I was going to be friendly. My goal was to just wave hi. If we wanted to talk about school, that was my main intention. If we were going to talk, it was going to be about school, and that's it. We are here for my sister. No one else. Just my sister. So I'm playing cornhole with a buddy of mine, and, we're having fun. She's off doing her own thing, talking to a couple of friends, and she's getting ready to leave. Well, I haven't waved hi to her at all because I couldn't find the chance to, because obviously she's talking to people. It'd be weird if I'm, waving my hand around, like a madman in front of a bunch of people. So, I had to wait for at least an appropriate moment. And as she was leaving, make no mistake, I try not to make mistakes in life. We're all human. We make mistakes. But I can guarantee you this, that she did make eye contact with me. And I'm not talking like, run-of-the-mill quick glance and, run away type of eye contact. I'm talking pupil on pupil eye contact. Our eyes literally were aligned with each other, and that's when I saw my opportunity to at least wave hi to her. So I smiled and I waved as friendly as I could. Granted, I can't see the look on my face, so I'm not sure how, goofy my smile looked, but that's besides the point. Well, she didn't wave back, and let's just say that kind of made me feel a little bit embarrassed. Because I waved to someone that, to me, is here for my sister. You're at my sister's graduation party. I expect you to at least wave back to, at least her brother. You don't have to think of me as, your ex. You can just think of me as, your friend's brother. So I found that kind of odd, and even it did hurt me a little bit. I was like, okay, that was a bit odd. But then it gets a little funky here, and I let's just say this is where my anger kind of festered a little bit. But again, like I said, it was an entire process to finally let this all go. So before I get into the letting go stuff, let me, talk about this very frustrating moment. She talks to my dad. She goes to say goodbye to him after she completely ignores that I exist, and, I'm not trying to listen in. I'm playing cornhole with my friend and we're getting into it. I'm winning, he's losing, I'm getting a little cocky and I'm having fun. I can't wait to win and all that. I'm not trying to listen in on their conversation, but it is within earshot. And the one thing my dad says is he cannot wait to plan a fall, and this was in May. He can't wait to plan a, time where they can go out to lunch together. And not in any sort of way like it's just my dad and her. He means with basically my sister or maybe he did, I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to eavesdrop or anything. So basically they were going to plan a lunch together because that's who my dad is. He's a teacher. He likes to be friendly. He does this with his students, so it's not uncommon. But Dad, this is with my ex that literally tore my heart into two and, basically made me go through depression and suicide in a sort of way. Granted, I didn't really normally go to you towards this, but I went mainly towards my mom in this entire process and not towards my dad. So he doesn't know how I felt throughout this entire thing. And let's just say that particular, statement from my dad, let's just say it left me a little hot and bothered. I was furious, livid in fact. I was ready to scream at my dad. I was able to resolve it literally with my mom. He talked with my dad about it and it was all well and good. It hasn't happened, and in fact, my dad says, and that's where I figured, okay, it's all good because my dad literally doesn't follow through with a whole lot of promises, specifically with, dinners. I still remember the time I'm trying to plan a lunch with him because, I'm still at home while studying, and I figured, hey, let's go to lunch sometime, Dad. And that still hasn't happened even to this day. So I'm not too shocked. But anyway, I just wanted to explain the whole graduation party scenario because it did hit me a little bit. But that's besides the point. It's already resolved. And this is where I'm going to kind of go into, my acceptance phase a little bit. So obviously, like I said in my previous video, I have been going to therapy about this because, again, I think it was time that I talked to someone about this. And this was a while ago. This has been something since basically the year that it happened. I had to go back and talk to him about it. And since then, I've felt immensely better about it. I'm going through the stages of grief, and like I said, I went through acceptance a couple of times, but now I'm at the point where I feel like acceptance has finally come through. But yeah, like I said, I went to therapy about this because it really did hit me deep a little bit. And he made a good point. The only way I could find out that I truly accepted the fact that this happened was that I was no longer bitter towards her. So you're probably wondering, well, how did I do that? Considering how, obviously hurt and angry I was. Well, let me take it back to August a little bit. Obviously, back in August, the 1 year anniversary of, basically everything going down, even to the point where I remembered exactly what happened on each specific day. I went back a little bit. And I thought back to, where she was in life. She was going off to college while I was mainly staying home. And yes, I was working towards, potentially doing a, long distance, well, not long distance, because Greeley wasn't that far from my house. But again, a long distance sort of relationship. But she wasn't looking towards that. And she obviously wanted to, do her own thing in college. I looked at it from her perspective, And I put myself in her shoes. I thought to myself, well, Tristan, let's be fair. If I went to college and went to parties, I would be flirting with other, not guys, but girls. But I would be doing the same thing. And I wouldn't know how to respond, in all of this. And again, it gave me some time to really think through this a little bit. So, even though it was hard for me to accept, that's when it really dawned on me, this was going to inevitably happen. Props to the couples that were able to make it, make it through this. I know a couple of friends of mine or close, tight-knit group of people that I don't see a whole lot. I know that they still have that strong relationship, that they were able to make it work. I knew this was inevitably going to happen. So that's when it fully dawned on me that I was like, yeah, it makes sense. And I no longer was mad. Frustrated, yes, but I was no longer mad at her for it. I no longer felt like an intense sort of, hatred towards her. And that's where it got a lot of conflicting feelings because, again, since I cared about her so much, that's where I couldn't really let it go because, again, I still really care for her. And this is just another point I want to bring up is, I still care about her, even to this day. I know a whole lot of people don't really watch my videos. I know, again, I'm making this video for myself, and the only people that watch my videos are my coworkers and a couple of my friends who aren't even subscribed to my channel. A couple of them are, but not a whole lot. I doubt my ex's friends are watching, my videos to really, let her know that I'm no longer mad. Not that I really care that much because I'm talking to other girls to begin with. So, that's where I'm kind of at with this whole stance. But now you're probably wondering, okay, so why am I making this video besides, for me? Now, I hate sounding like a broken record and talking about my misery, but I just figured I'd explain this. But I would say a couple of weeks ago, my parents took off leaving, and my sister was going to Denver for a couple of days to take care of a couple of things. Leaving me, obviously, at home alone, which I was completely fine with. I'm fine with being home alone. But, again, it's home alone. I don't have a whole lot of people to talk to, and, for me, I'm not that greatest on, connecting with my friends because I have other things on my mind, and also, they may be busy and I don't want to interrupt them. I know most of them are in college, so again, I don't want to disrupt them. So, it's hard for me to contact my friends or have that confidence to really contact them. I'm still snapping my friends and coworkers and all that, but they don't snap me that much, and I don't have a whole lot to talk to them about. And my ex really was the only person to really, where I felt like she, answered a whole lot, made it consistent. I got to talk to her about certain things that were on my mind. The other point I want to bring up a little bit is, FaceTiming. Now, really, this face doesn't really do it justice, but obviously, when I did FaceTime her, even during our friendship or, during our relationship, I definitely was happy, speaking to her. She was someone that I really enjoyed, hanging out with and, talking with her about school, about life overall, and not just through FaceTime, but also through Snapchat and, text messaging. It really made me feel good just speaking to her. She was not only a great person that I had a relationship with, but also a friendship with. And ultimately, because I didn't have that person, to talk to like her, it made me feel a little bit alone. It made me have just a lot of thoughts about her. And it ultimately just made me feel really bad and really contemplative. And again, this image doesn't really do it justice because, I really had strong emotions for her. And, like I said, it's been a year since the whole, relationship thing has passed. But, you know, I really got to thinking about this entire thing during, these moments when I was home alone. And that's when I just wanted to get those thoughts and feelings out because even though I fully accepted the fact, you know, that we broken up, I kind of just got, you know, a very strong sense of sadness that not only did I lose to me a great girlfriend, but also a fantastic friend, a great friend, in fact. And for me, friendship always matters. I love each and every one of my friends, even the ones that annoy the absolute piss out of me. And yeah, she was a friend that I still care about even to this day. And because I've had all that time to really, think and I wouldn't, and, just kind of go through the entire relationship, it gave me a lot of things to think about just what I missed about her because I couldn't really put it to words. It really just came into my mind and I really wanted to write this stuff down. So, I'm not going to go into it because obviously this is really just for me and my mentality. But, obviously made a list of what I missed about my ex. And you're probably telling me, well, Tristan, if you miss her so much, why did you block her in the first place? Well, my curious friend, the reason why I blocked her is for my mental health. Because, obviously, since we've broken up, of course I'm not going to keep in contact with them. That's just going to give me a false, hope. And I wouldn't been able to move on or feel as good about myself. And yeah, I know I'm going through the exact same emotions. I feel like I'm going in circles. But again, this was something, it really just came into my mind what I ultimately missed about her. And even though I accepted that, it still hurts. And this is where I want to kind of get into why this ultimately still hurts me. And it still will, as I move on and, date other girls, because I am talking to other people. I'm really kind of moving, well, not even kind of, I am quite frankly moving on. I'm no longer want to talk about this to people. I just want to let this fade into memory as like a good, time that I had with someone. But, oh man, I completely forgot what point I was going to make. I apologize. But, now I just remembered, lost my train of thought there for a second. But again, why it stings me the most is because she was ultimately a great friend. She was ultimately someone that I enjoyed spending my time with. Obviously I love all my other friends and I love spending time with them. Even my coworkers, absolutely love them. Excuse me. And even my friends way back in high school and elementary school, I got reconnected with them, and even that was fun. But for me, she was, and all the other high school friends that were girls, even though I still got along with them and I still enjoy spending time with them, she was one that I just really enjoyed spending time with and also speaking with. I'm not sure how she feels when we were friends. I'm not sure how she felt in those moments, but for me, she was a great friend. And that's what hurts for me when I lose a friend. I've lost plenty of friends in my life. And one other quick point I want to make is, I've had other relationships. I've had flings, dated in a sense of, we just hung out and that's the extent of a relationship. But for me, this was like my first very serious relationship. Yeah, it wasn't that long, but let me tell you, that in that amount of time, I was extremely happy, and especially since this was a well built up relationship. I started speaking to her. I'm gonna get a little off topic here, but I started speaking with to her or speaking with her, I would say roughly around sophomore year before COVID hit. And it was super silly. We had the same class at one point, and it was basically just to tell her that I wasn't going to make it to class. And then that's when we kind of like, started speaking to each other as, friends basically. And she was someone that I enjoyed speaking with. I didn't really have a crush on her initially, but the more I got to speak with her, the more I kind of developed this sense of, like, man, like strong feelings towards her. And I feel like this with any girl I interact with. If I, really get along with them, specifically with a lot of coworkers of mine, I get that, I get that butterfly in my stomach. Like, I really enjoy talking to this person, and that's what makes me like them. And that's how I felt about my ex around that time. And obviously, when COVID hit like a freaking rock, which is beyond crazy to think about, it's been so long. But, when COVID hit, that was when we really spoke to each other quite a lot. And that's when I really kind of like connected with her. And even during COVID, we did hang out a couple of times. But it was out of friendship. Even though I had those feelings towards her that I really liked her. And I even wanted to date her at that time. And we did, but because I didn't know how long COVID was going to last, I ultimately, broke things off saying, I'm not sure how long this is going to last. I think I should wait. Then obviously once junior year rolled around and we occasionally went to class and went to school, that's when I gained the realization that, okay, now I actually want to get back into this relationship. Then flash forward to senior year, and then all the stuff goes down. And, that's when we finally get into that relationship. But for me, it was so well built up that, from just a simple friendship, it went into something more that really meant a lot to me. And, that's what ultimately hurts me the most is, and I was talking to my therapist about this, but to be fair, our friendship ended when we began dating. That's technically when, your friendship ends. And of course, that didn't dawn on me until, post breakup, when I was going through the breakup. That's when I truly realized, I did lose a friend. And there was always one phrase that she said that's always stuck out to me, and that's a phrase that I will always hold very close to my heart because it had such a big impact on me. But, and I can even go into, the details of like the days of what happened during the breakup, but I don't want to get too deep into it. I'm debating about it honestly, but one of the words she said when I proposed a break to her, and I got worried because that's when I realized, oh shit, I'm potentially going to lose her as a girlfriend. And I was really scared. I'm not gonna lie. I was really scared because, again, I had such deep, strong feelings for her. And when I told her this, the words she said to me were, "You won't ever lose me," or "I don't think you'll ever lose me." I wish I can remember verbatim of what she said, but that is the extent of it, is "you won't ever lose me." Here we are in 2023 and talking about it. I clearly haven't spoken to her in over a year. I think it's safe to say that I did lose her. And that's, that's what hits me the hardest a little bit, because I did, have those strong emotions for her, and it was such a serious relationship for me, at least. and with someone that I really did enjoy spending my time with. And again, I'm not going to go into too deep into this, but I wasn't a flawless boyfriend, and I was hoping that we were going to work things out together, but obviously that wasn't the case. But it was also wrong timing, because we're going off to college. We didn't know where this was going to go. So, that's ultimately what happened. And that's ultimately how I've been feeling for the past couple of days. I've just felt really alone and stressed out, even with school. And even with this, even though I'm accepting it and finally moving on, it's still nonetheless, I still have those feelings about it. Oh, there's my water bottle. My mouth is getting a tad bit dry. But yeah, I've just been feeling really down about this, not particularly on myself. Well, I guess on myself. I mean, I feel bad that I lost her, but that's life. That's gonna happen. In fact, I've had people that passed away on me, you know, where I've worked and also in my life recently, and ultimately this stuff happens. It's life. And life kind of sucks, That's life in a nutshell, It throws you a bunch of curveballs, and, sometimes you just have to deal with it. I need a drink of water. And I figured this will be the last thing that I mention. I'll just go through this really quick, but since I do have it on my mind a little bit and I can recollect everything, I can give you basically the rundown of everything that happened. So it started on a Friday where me and a friend were gonna go see the movie Nope from Jordan Peele. And it was something I wanted to see with my ex. She's not a big fan of horror movies, but my dumbass is thinking she may like it because I didn't think it was that scary. And I wanted her to watch it. I wanted to hang out with her. So after me and my friend see it, I tell her that night, like, I think she would like it, but she got frustrated with me and said, I don't really want to see it. And I was like, okay. And I felt terrible because I was essentially pressuring her into watching a movie she clearly had no interest in watching. I mean, even just talking about it, even, sends a shiver down my spine and even makes my stomach churn a little bit because it makes me just realize, wow, like, it wasn't good of me to do this. And then flash forward to that Saturday where I worked. She didn't work on Saturday. She was in the process of quitting. Sunday was our last day of work. And, I didn't sleep well that night. And I had it in my mind, and I snapped her a couple of times that day. And that's when I wanted to tell her, and I asked her, like, hey, do I feel like this relationship is kind of dying a little bit? And she felt the same way. And then this is where my entire body for that entire year basically was on full-on stressed, depressed, just instantly nervous mode. This is when it essentially turned on for me because that's when I realized, shit, this may or may not happen. It's one of those feelings you feel when, when you were a little kid, you thought you were getting in trouble, but yeah, essentially that's how I felt. And that's when I proposed, how about we take a break, and since you're going off to college, and the night before, that's when everything went down. And, I apologize if I went through this in my previous video. I'll make this as quick as possible, but, then essentially I just told her, everything about how I felt. She gave me the message that I hold near and dear to my heart, and it still made me scared. It didn't really change how I felt. So I worked the evening shift and I could not focus. I went to work. I've cried a couple of times at work. I was beyond stressed out. I mean, I felt sick throughout my entire shift. Granted, thankfully, no one picked up on it to make my shift even worse. To be fair, it was a perfectly fine shift. It was a nice chill night. Nothing intense went on, besides the fact that I was going through this, in my opinion, a very tough time in my life. Then Sunday was the last time, it was her last day of work and potentially the last time I ever got to speak to her. And then, of course, that's when I told you, that's when, I went through everything. She talked to me in her car and everything. And, even throughout that entire shift, I felt sick. I felt terrible. I cried a couple of times. And that was the last time I ever saw her in person. And we talked. And, it just really hurt me. Then, it left me distracted. I failed my medical assisting test again because, again, I was like so close to passing. I missed a couple of questions, but a lot was on my mind. And it really just hit me really hard during that time period. So yeah, I don't want to go too deep into it because, again, this video is already long enough as is, but again, I really just wanted to make this video for me. Obviously, if you didn't want to listen to this entire thing, I don't blame you. I mean, but really, it's just like how I wanted to speak without, because again, I'm not going to sit down and speak to someone for, more than 40 minutes about this entire topic. I wanted to get my thoughts and feelings down about this, especially since I am truly over this, and I made just such a major milestone in improvement in my mental health just throughout this entire thing. I'm not making this video, obviously, to make her feel bad or anything like that. I'm really just putting my thoughts and feelings out there for my friends that, know how bad I'm feeling or how, emotional this has made me. But I originally didn't want to make this video, but I thought about it long and hard throughout the month of August when those feelings kind of like dwelled back up inside me, and I felt like it was time. Especially since now it's officially over. I'm officially done. I'm moving on. I'm talking to other people, and time to, bury this forever and just leave it to my lasting memory. Now, somewhere down you're probably also asking if you're genuinely curious. I highly doubt that people are, but would I be friends with her? Absolutely. I would still be friends with her despite my very strong feelings for her, but I would still be friends with her. But I could care less about that at the moment. I honestly would rather just, focus on my academics and other people before even thinking about that. So, just something I figured I'd mention. But, yeah, I really just wanted to make this for myself, and, it may not be something that's easy for a lot of people to hear, especially since I'm not like the fastest talker. My voice is very neutral and very monotonish. Again, if you watch my, video basically saying how you should watch my videos, it's a nice, little listen to. You can just listen to my voice like a podcast, so to speak, And yeah, I highly doubt her friends are going to be watching this video, but if they do happen to come across it, by all means, just keep it civil in the comments. I know I'm, making a big deal out of this, but again, like I said, throughout this entire video, I did have those strong emotions for her. And it wasn't the fact that the hardest part for me is not, letting go. I can let go. The hardest part for me was starting over. I I couldn't really start over. I couldn't reset myself because I had those strong feelings for her. But it's a new chapter in my life, so I had to start over. And I thought about it long and hard to really just kind of put a kibosh on this entire thing. Alright, just to wrap this up really quickly, because this is going way too freaking long. So I apologize for that. Just one last thing I want to mention. If you are planning on breaking up with someone, here's my personal recommendation. Granted, I'm not a therapist. I barely have that type of connection with people. So take my advice with a grain of salt. But if you're planning to break up with someone, don't cheat on them. And even if you did, don't tell them. It's not going to be fun for either side. If you want to break up with them, just rip the band-aid off and do it. But again, I'm no therapist, and I've only been in one serious relationship in my life, so what do I know? I'm just 20 years old and barely lived out my life. Anyway, that's what I just wanted to talk about. I know it's, a long topic, but for me, this was something I had to talk about, especially since, it really does hurt me a little bit. But, that's the process of moving on. That is my dog scratching on my door. I kind of got scared for a minute there. Anyway, just to wrap it all up, I figured I'd mention this for my other videos. I'm gonna take a month off. I'm gonna focus on school a little bit. I'm gonna take a month off of making videos. That's why I wanted to make this super long one, basically describing my mental health as is, because this is gonna be the last time I talk about this. So I figured this would be the last one in about a month, or more than a month, I should say. Making a video. So you're probably wondering, what's my next review? Well, I figured in about a month, that new Five Nights at Freddy's movie comes out. Screw it. I'd watch it and review it. And that's probably going to be my next video in about a month or more. But I figured I'd mention that. So, anyway. Take it easy, everyone. Be good people. See ya.